Good evening, everyone. I'd like to begin tonight's Board of Trustees meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence to honor our fallen servicemen and women. Thank you. I want to begin this evening addressing a letter I issued as mayor. It was brought to my attention, Trustee Flanagan inquired if the mayor was the only person who could execute contracts on behalf of the village. Moreover, I learned of the strict rules of conduct the workers' compensation judge must abide by. After speaking with village council, I was informed Trustee Flanagan may need to recuse herself regarding any village workers' compensation cases in the future. I then asked for further clarification from village council, who explained the Workers' Compensation Board could best address this matter. The letter I sent to the Workmen's Compensation Board was solely seeking clarification. Should the board have responded in the affirmative and no conflict existed, the inquiry would have ended. There's been no response by the Workers' Compensation Board to my letter. My inquiry was made to the Workers' Compensation Board as a courtesy to determine if a sitting trustee who was a workers' compensation judge had conflicts with village workers' compensation matters. At the time I issued my letter, Trustee Flanagan had not announced that she was running for mayor. There was no political motive on my part. The fact that this letter was provided to others, including the Garden City News, was not of my doing. I surmise the Workers' Compensation Board communicated to Trustee Flanagan asking for her comment. Thus, it could only be Trustee Flanagan or others acting on her behalf provided that letter to others, including the Garden City News, as I did not. I immediately received an email from Meg Norris of the Garden City News requesting that I comment on 5 questions posed. My response to the inquiry by the Garden City News, the following is provided. Dear Ms. Norris, as you are aware, per village law, the mayor is the chief executive officer of the village. It is solely the mayor who directs actions be taken on behalf of the village and sets the agenda for meetings. Further, as noted by village council, it is solely the mayor who is authorized to sign contracts on behalf of the village. Several weeks ago, when Trustee Flanagan was inquiring of others, asking if only the mayor needed to sign contracts due to her status as a workman's compensation administrative judge, this posed a concern. Based on her inquiry, I sought clarification from village council regarding the provisions of the law judge's code of conduct. Village council believed my request for clarification would be best answered by the Workers' Compensation Board. While Trustee Flanagan had not yet announced she was running for mayor, to resolve the issue, a letter was sent to the Workers' Compensation Board to request clarification. This inquiry was confidential and not shared with anyone. It is assumed that upon receipt of the letter sent to the Workers' Compensation Board, Trustee Flanagan was contacted by the Workers' Compensation Board seeking her response. There's been no response received from either the Workers' Compensation Board or from Trustee Flanagan. You having a copy of the letter sent to the Workers' Compensation Board can only occur if Trustee Flanagan allowed it to be circulated. Until a response is received from the Workers' Compensation Board or information is provided by Trustee Flanagan in writing, no further comment from the village is warranted. The actions taken by me are fully consistent with my obligation as mayor. It was done in the most confidential manner possible, without divulging any information. The fact that this issue was now raised by others only resulted by the actions of others and not of my doing. As the Workers' Compensation Board has not responded, nor has Trustee Flanagan provided me or the trustees with any written documentation advising that she is permitted to run for mayor, I can only consider the inquiry as closed. The actions of Trustee Flanagan going forward on her ability to sign contracts or any village workers' compensation issue that requires her recusal will be deferred to her good judgment. Thank you.
I'd like to just briefly respond since I'm the target. Just in brief response, I find Cosmo Veneziali's use of the village letterhead disturbing. I support further evaluation so this never happens to another resident volunteer. As a workers' compensation law judge, I am required to request approval to run for elected office, which I have done before each election. I have been approved by the Workers' Compensation Board and the Ethics Commission to hold the office of trustee and mayor. I look forward to continuing to serve the village, and I'm not commenting further.
Thank you.
I do have some comments. All of us, everyone on this board, ran on transparency. Transparency among ourselves, and most importantly, transparency with the residents. That did not occur here, Mayor, okay? You sent out a letter. First of all, it wasn't even on current stationery. I was on there. Trustee O'Brien was on there. Trustee Deacon was on there. But trustees that are no longer on the board. You did not discuss this with us, okay? You could have jeopardized Trustees Flanagan's employment by doing this, okay? What was the purpose? Would this actually benefit the village? Well, I'm not
You
done.
can
yet.
finish. I'll
Okay,
respond.
okay. As far as I'm concerned, okay, wouldn't benefit the village. You didn't discuss this with us. This was done for political reasons, okay? And frankly, in my opinion, I think it was despicable.
Let me explain. This was not on my radar to begin with, and this is brought to my attention by Village Administrator Ralph Swazi, and then I had conversations with Gary Fishberg. We wanted to get clarification on this. They told me this is what had to happen. It's my obligation as mayor. So again, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, right? I did what I was told to do based on conversations I had with Ralph Swazi and Gary Fishberg. And I went forward to make that inquiry. And again, that was my obligation as I was instructed.
Well, can I ask Village Administrator Swazi, followed up by Attorney Fishberg, did you advise the mayor that he should send a letter to the Workers' Compensation Board?
No, the question was asked of me, and I specifically said, I'm not an attorney. I can't answer it as a legal question. I think that a question like that should go to the village council to research. If I researched it, I wouldn't be confident in the answer I give.
Attorney Fishberg.
Yeah, one question I was asked a couple of weeks ago was who can sign contracts? And it came to my attention that village contracts were being signed not only by the mayor, but by Mr. Swazi as well. And I informed them that village contracts under the law, it's the mayor who executes contracts. And then a question came up as to what happens if you have some kind of conflict in executing the contracts. For instance, if somebody works for a company or a corporation and the village was going to enter into a contract with that company, and the mayor worked for that company, what could happen? And my response to that was that that's what you have a deputy mayor for, when the mayor cannot sign a contract. With regard to the workers' comp law, or the workers' comp code of ethics, I reviewed the workers' comp code of ethics, and I told the mayor that I really didn't have any issues with Trustee Flanagan's service on the board, with the possible exception. One thing we did talk about was voting on issues that could involve workers' comp. And I actually had a conversation with Trustee Flanagan about that. And I was satisfied with her response because she pointed out that most of the issues that are on the village agenda, extending sick leave for employees, are really contractual issues. They're issues that don't really involve workers' comp per se, but it's a contractual issue to extend sick leave for somebody who is, for whatever reason, is not able to appear for work. I also spoke to her about recusing herself in situations where there would be a direct conflict with workers' comp. And she informed me at the time that she was seeking an opinion from the workers' comp ethics people, and that I thought was a good idea. I was asked to write a letter to workers' comp, questioning these issues, and I suggested to the mayor that that was neither appropriate for me to do so, nor did I think it was necessary for me to do so. I was surprised upon learning that a letter had been written to workers' comp. I didn't think that it may be necessary to rise to that occasion to send a letter. I'm not surprised that workers' comp didn't respond, because most of these agencies, if they have an ethics ethics officer, they usually only respond to people within the agency. So I'm not surprised that they didn't respond. As I explained to the mayor, Trustee Flanagan is bound by the workers' comp code of ethics. It's our responsibility to abide by those rules, so that as to not jeopardize her position as a workers' comp judge. And I'm sure that Trustee Flanagan takes that responsibility very seriously. And she's indicated to me that she has sought an ethics opinion, and I can only, I guess if she is not concerned about any kind of ethical violations, my view was that I shouldn't be concerned about them.
Okay, so then the question again is, did you advise, I believe from our discussions, that you told the mayor that it was inappropriate for him to send a letter?
No, I said it was
did not say that.
inappropriate for me to send a letter.
He
That's,
did not want to
Okay.
send the
I
letter.
said, I thought it
He said
was,
I should send the letter.
I thought it was unnecessary and inappropriate for me to send a letter. And, somebody else sent the letter, so be it, but I thought it was inappropriate for me to do it.
Right.
And unnecessary for me to do it. And I didn't direct anybody to do it, and I didn't,
So you're saying you didn't ask him to send the letter, nor did you suggest, because he says you.
No,
should-
I
you-
didn't,
He's, no, pardon me. He says that you said that he should send a letter. That was his word.
well, I would take issue with that. I
That's what he,
think,
that's what he said.
I understand that. I understand.
I was just looking for clarification,
Okay.
Gary.
I said that I wouldn't send the letter, and that if somebody else sent it, fine, but I wouldn't send it.
So you're saying clearly that you did not say that he should send the letter.
I didn't say he should send it. I didn't say he shouldn't send it.
He said
Okay.
I should, the Workmen's Compensation Board could best address the issue. That's what he said.
I just recall you saying that you said overall it was inappropriate, but I guess,
I said it was inappropriate for me to send a letter and unnecessary for me to send a letter, because from my reading of the workers' comp code of ethics for judges, I would, and my conversations with Trustee Flanagan, I was satisfied that there wasn't any reason to pursue it any further. And, as it turns out, workers' comp, didn't respond. And I didn't really mention that at the time, but in thinking about it and learning that they didn't respond makes perfect sense to me that they wouldn't, because they usually give their opinions in-house and not to an outside person.
There's a statement from 4 trustees, Trustees Deegan, Chester, Marciano, and Kelly. And it states, "We are trustees of the Village of Garden City, duly elected and currently serving. We were recently made aware of Cosmo Veneziali's January 23rd, 2023 letter to Trustee Flanagan's employer. We had no knowledge of this letter prior to its transmittal and no involvement in its preparation or transmittal. We apologize to the 3 former village trustees whose names were on the old village letterhead that Mr. Veneziali chose to use, and assure them that such use was not a result of board action. Every trustee on this board was elected on a promise to maintain full transparency with their fellow trustees and most importantly, with the residents of our village. This did not happen with Mayor Veneziale. In view of this, our board needs to weigh what steps need to be taken in response to his actions. Moving on to my statement, I open with a question. In what world is it proper to contact a trustee's employer without notice to them? I'll repeat the question. In what world is it proper to contact a trustee's employer without notice to them? That's my question. This is my statement. My understanding of the facts here is that Mr. Veneziale used expired village letterhead to send a letter to trustee Flanagan's employer, that he did this without notice to her, that the letter questioned both her actions as a trustee and her ability to run for mayor, that there was no notice to any of the trustees, current or former, whose names appear on the expired letterhead. Village resources, including the letterhead, were used for Mr. Veneziale's personal benefit, mainly to clear a competitor from the race for the mayor's position. It's well known that the leading vote getter in this village is Mary Carter Flanagan. She had 500 more votes than you 2 years ago. It is clear that she's the top vote getter. Nobody here thinks it's a coincidence that she's the one you went behind the back of and went after by contacting her employer without any notice to her. And what kind of a person does that? And where do you think you have the authority to do that? You say in your statement that you decide what actions the village takes. The Board of Trustees decides that. You don't hire. I'm not finished. You don't hire. You don't fire. You don't approve $1 million contracts. The Board of Trustees does. That seems to be lost on you, despite the fact that you've been in that office 22 months. All of this was done without any approval or even consultation with the Village Board of Trustees. It's stunning that someone could take village resources, use them for their own benefit to knock out the top candidate for mayor, and then sit there and tell us there was no political action, no political motive. That's a disgrace. Mr. Chester, Trustee Chester, calls it despicable. Given my job, I think it's just a disgrace, an embarrassment to the village, and a tragedy that you would attack a member of the Board of Trustees like this. She sat there next to you for 22 months. You never turn to her and say, hey, is this okay? You voting on workers' comp things? Hey, is this okay that you're going to run for mayor? Are you going to be able to perform the duties? You never did that. What kind of a person never turns to the person next to them who sat there for 22 months and says, hey, I have a question for you, but instead writes to their employer without notice to them? And how vicious is that? You could have ruined her livelihood. You definitely interfered with her livelihood, and you took that action without speaking to any of us. How disgraceful is that? I just find that given your actions, I don't know how you can possibly continue to sit there tonight and continue in your current position. You have disgraced the village. You have disgraced the Board of Trustees. You have attacked her livelihood. And how can you possibly do that and continue to sit there? You have abused the powers that were given to you, and you seem to have no fundamental understanding of what powers you have and what the limitation of your powers are. It is a disgrace what you have done. And I hope that you do the right thing and give up your position and let the deputy mayor finish out your term, because this is not what Garden City is about. Garden City is not about attacking people like a snake and writing to their employer to try to undermine them, undermine their campaign. It's called interference with employment. It's called interference with prospective advantage. And I think you need to find out the limits of your power and how you should behave, not just as a mayor, because hopefully you won't continue to be that, but as a person. Try to be a man and tell somebody that, yes, I have a problem with something. Can we talk about it? Don't go behind their back and contact their employer. I'll go with disgrace. I understand why Trustee Chester goes with despicable.
You know, Mayor, trustee.
Let me
Go ahead.
Let me go.
Go to it.
Real simple. I've got nothing to add to what Charlie said, but the thing I find most despicable in all this nonsense is this. 22 months, you didn't say anything. Timing is of everything in life. And the funny part about it is, Cosmo, you talk about trust. You talk about people trusting you. At this point in time, knowing what you did to Mary, to go after her livelihood, honestly, there's no reason to trust anything that ever comes out of your mouth, period. That's it. You've embarrassed us as a board. You've embarrassed the village. You hide behind some fantasy that you have some obligation, which is a lie. Everything you're talking about right now, honestly, is a lie. I hope you can apologize to Mary and actually to the village what you've done.
I would apologize for the village. However, based on the information I received from village executives and village council, I acted accordingly. Right?
But we go back to, but Cosmo, we go back to the point. Well, no, sorry, Ralph, you didn't answer the question. Did you advise the mayor to send the letter? It's real simple. Yes or no?
No.
Okay, so you say he did, so that's a lie. What else?
No, I didn't say he sent.
No, you said you said that he said that you should send the letter. That's what you said in your statement.
No, not Ralph Swazi.
Mayor, as Trustee Kelly said, this is a beautiful village. It's probably one of the most beautiful on Long Island, if not the nation. Many of us came here for that reason, okay? We have a board that's supposed to be dignified. This is not Tammany Hall, okay? This is the village of Garden City. And this is not the way we should treat ourselves as elected officials of Garden City, okay? And again, I think you should certainly apologize to Trustee Flanagan, and without a doubt, the rest of the board and to the residents of this village.
Thank you. Any other comments?
We have an agenda.
No? Let's continue on. I'd like to take this opportunity to mention that this year's village election will be held on Tuesday, March 21st, 2023 at St. Paul's Fieldhouse from 12 noon to 9 p.m. Please get out and vote, and if you're unable to vote in person due to a disability or illness, or if you'll be out of town that day, please fill out an absentee ballot application. Please note that we have been advised that the fear of COVID or of contracting an illness can no longer be used as an excuse not to vote in person. Absentee ballot applications are on the village's website. There are applications outside the board room, in the clerk's office, and also downstairs in the village hall lobby. Our next Board of Trustees meeting will be held on Tuesday, February 21st, 2023, beginning at 5:30 p.m. until 9:30 p.m. This is also grievance day, and the board will be in attendance to hear grievances from taxpayers regarding the 2023 tax assessment. I would now like to call upon the department heads, beginning with Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one item on police uniforms. J&A's been our provider for the last few years, and it's a very competent provider, and they I'm asking that they be approved as our supplier. Another item I'd just like to talk about is this month we did have an attempted burglary, and one burglary and 3 attempted burglaries, in line with a lot of the burglaries that are happening in other areas. Last night there was quite a few north of us. The burglary pattern team has made some significant arrests from Nassau County, so we're hoping that helps. But we're also asking the residents to be vigilant. lock your doors, keep your lights on outside. And if you hear anything, your dog barking, people have been calling us a lot lately, and that's good. And we have, several calls where people were in driveways checking cars and they couldn't get in. So, that's helping us and it's persuading people to go elsewhere. So, we're asking to continue that. That's all I have, sir.
Next, Fire Chief.
Quick question. Could you explain to the residents about the gas station burglary or robberies that have occurred and what the techniques are even coming out of the banks at the ATMs? If you don't mind, Commissioner.
Sure. First, the gas station is all distraction, larcenies. But with the gas stations is while you're pumping the gas, a lot of people leave their key or fob in the vehicle and they, or their pocketbook. And what they do is they jump in the car, they quick put the foot on the brake, hit the button, and if it starts, they go. Or if the key's in the ignition, they take it and go. And in a couple of cases, I believe the gas pump was still activated. In the ATMs and banks, they watch people, especially in rear buildings, they watch people take money out, and then they use a distraction. There's several types of distractions they use for people. They'll tell them that they'll throw some tax on behind their rear tire, or they'll throw money on the ground, or they'll ask them directions. And while they do that, another person is reaching in and grabbing a pocketbook or the money. So that's the main type of distraction losses that occurs with banks and gas stations. But there has been a couple incidents where people got involved and it actually turned into a robbery.
Thank you.
Fire Chief Byrne.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees. The fire department has nothing on the formal agenda. However, I'd just like to bring a couple things to everyone's attention. In the month of January, the fire department responded to 69 total alarms, of which 59 were signal 8s. Of those 59, 54 were false or unintentional transmission of automatic alarms, which is always a good thing. We responded to 6 general alarms and 4 mutual aids to surrounding departments. Just a couple updates on some projects. Our new engine, the specifications have been complete. I'd like to thank the engine committee led by Assistant Chief Perella, who spent countless hours meeting with numerous vendors, mapping this out. As I've discussed in the past, we're going to use this as our template for all engines going forward as an approach to standardize the fleet. And then in regards to the training site project that's been ongoing in the development stages and the design, I'd like to thank John Baroni for spending a good amount of time with us going through our ideas, Giuseppe as well, for their time and commitment in designing and come up with some plans. So hopefully we'll be able to provide some budgetary numbers and show the design of it at the budget sessions coming up. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
If you could tell the residents the benefit of standardizing the engines, that would be great.
Absolutely. There's several benefits. First and foremost, it's just ease of training and qualification for our chauffeurs. Currently, we have 3 engines in our fleet. All 3 are made by 3 different manufacturers. The design is similar, the layout's similar. However, just the operations, the familiarity, it varies. So the training on it will become standardized, which makes it easier for everyone to get qualified. Equipment location within the apparatus then becomes easier for every member of the department who responds to an alarm. It saves us in terms of rotating throughout the town, so we can save on wear and tear of the apparatus as well as that familiarity. And also from a financial perspective, if we standardize the fleet and buy them within a certain time frame of each other, the cost, although one lump sum will be greater in the term of the lifespan, it'll be saving money. It actually would cost us less overall, as well as due to the current financial situation, the costs are going up quarterly. So it actually has multiple benefits across numerous fronts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next is Village Treasurer Irene Wu.
Good evening, everyone. On tonight's agenda, under the Finance Department, item number 1, we are currently working on the 23-24 village budget, and we're requesting to set the 4 dates for the public work sessions in March. That's item number 1. Item number 2 is a request to engage Sound Actuarial Consulting to perform required reporting and analysis for the village. One of the reports they prepare for the village is the workers' compensation and general liability coverage. This study is required for
Actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to just interrupt because I'm going to remove items 2. I didn't know you were going to go into any detail. I'm removing items 2 and item 5, only the portion that includes denial of sick leave to one DPW worker from the consent calendar. So if you can just hold off on any discussion, I'm recusing myself on those items based on written and confidential guidance received a week ago from the newly formed New York State Ethics Commission. And that was based on my request for approval in no way related to the mayor's letter. So just hold off on anything on the workers' comp item.
Okay, we'll do. Item number 3 is a request to appropriate $45,078.47 from the reserve for compensated absences for 3 employees who have left village service. And item number 4 is a notice that the village's tentative assessment roll has been filed with the village clerk. It is also available on the village's website under the finance department section. And those are the items for tonight.
Is that it, Irene?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Next is Building Superintendent Giuseppe Giovanello.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. The building department doesn't have anything on the formal agenda tonight, but I just want to give a caption of the performance of the month of January within the building department. For the month of January, the building department has performed 165 inspections. We've taken in 105 permits. That's residential building, plumbing, and electrical permits, 105. And the total revenue for that is $125,000 for the month of January. That's all I have, Mayor. If the board has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Move on. Recreation Commissioner Paul Blake. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Recreation has 3 items on the agenda tonight. The first one is the purchase of 2 pickup trucks. These trucks were identified in the 2021-22 budget. We were unable to get them due to chip shortages and due to the manufacturer limiting the number of trucks made available on government contracts. Unfortunately, the price has gone up somewhat from the time that we budgeted them. However, we do have adequate funds in our capital budget due to savings. We had $80,000 budgeted to purchase a new school bus, but we had used that to purchase a wood chipper for $49,000. So there are adequate funds to cover the cost of the 2 trucks. And these trucks will replace 2008 models, which are really at the end of their useful life. Number 10, tree removals are underway, as you've all no doubt seen as you ride through the village. And this is a change order to add on an additional, I believe, 15 dead or diseased trees. Several of them are on private property, and the homeowners have either been non-responsive or have refused to take them down. They're either dead or infested, and they pose a safety hazard. So as we do with lawns and hedges and shrubs, we will remove the trees, and then we will bill the homeowner. The homeowner does not pay. It will go on the tax rolls. And we are requesting that we add an additional $40,830 for the removal of those trees. There is money available in the operating budget for that. And number 11, conference attendance. We are requesting that we allow our 2 recreation supervisors, Andrea and Felicia, to attend the New York State Recreation and Park Conference, April 23rd through 25th in Monticello, New York. This conference brings together recreation personnel from all over the state. There are numerous educational opportunities, networking opportunities, and it's just good for training. And especially since one of these young ladies is new to the department, we really want to get her involved in the professional development. And lastly, not on the agenda, but I'm pleased to report that Poltech began today installing new flagpoles at Community Park, and will be installing a flagpole at St. Paul's School next Tuesday, I believe. We had these poles ordered in August, I think, but they had to be fabricated, so it took quite some time to get them. But they are on site, putting them in, and they should be done by next week. That's all I have this evening. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Everybody wants to know what's happening at the senior center.
Well, lots of things are happening at the senior center. We got bridge, we got canasta, we got it all.
You also have a lot of water.
We have a lot of water. We're going to do water aerobics next. That's going to go on the program. We,
Tomorrow is going to be real cold, so that's going to be ice skating and hockey.
we do have an update on the senior center. We did finally receive the estimate on the repairs from the company that was called in to do the cleanup and the restoration. That came through yesterday, as did the estimate from the insurance company to cover the cost of the restoration. There is a difference between the two. We are going to submit the budget amount from the restoration company to the insurance company and hope that they pony up the money to get it all done. We have a meeting scheduled on Monday morning with Andrew Tock, who is the village engineer overseeing the project, to go over the possible installation of the flooring that is ready to go. The material has been delivered. Contractor wants to get it done. In the meantime, the HVAC project is moving along, and it is, I would say, about 85% complete. So once we get the okay to go with the contractor, we should be able to get this back up and running pretty quickly. In the meantime, as we mentioned in the last meeting, we are conducting all our activities over at the St. Paul's Cottages. We have plenty of room, plenty of light. It's nice and warm. Come on over and have some fun.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paul. Next is Village Council Fishberg.
Yes, I prepared a new agreement, a license agreement between the village and the Garden City Historical Society. This came about in part because the Historical Society is they have a grant available to them for $50,000, but the New York State Parks has required that any license that they have with the village be extended out for 20 years from the date that they will file what's called a preservation covenant. Parks is requiring the Historical Society to keep the building as it is for 20 years. This license agreement will permit the Historical Society to utilize the property, which is owned by the village, for a 21-year period. It's made it a little longer because there's going to be time for the preservation covenant to be revised and be filed, so that that's why it's a 21-year license agreement. And I'm asking that the board approve that license agreement and authorize the mayor to enter into the agreement on behalf of the village.
Thank you. Is that it? Any questions? Next, Village Administrator Ralph Swazi.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I get into the items under Public Works, I want to first point your attention to the Board of Trustee item number 1 under A, which is the appointment of John Baroni. Mr. Baroni is the senior engineer here at the Village of Garden City. He's been with us 8 years. He's an excellent engineer. He understands the breadth and depth of the department. He listens thoughtfully and acts professionally and efficiently. He, along with Mr. Giovanello, have helped me carry the day-to-day operations of DPW and the capital projects. I want to thank the board for supporting his appointment, and I want to wish John success in a long career at the village. Item number 12 on the Public Works Senior Center HVAC replacement. There's an authorization request to change order number 1 submitted by Energy Mechanical for heating repairs in the amount of $3,088. Item number 13 is, excuse me while I flip the page. Item number 13, the first bullet is to request the board to transfer the balance of the reserve from the library capital improvements account, a reserve for capital improvements account to Garden City Library Children's renovation from the library reserve. I want to make a note here that there was interest applied to this amount, so the actual amount should be noted for the minutes as $17,897.33. I want to thank Treasurer Wu for that clarification. The second bullet is board authorization is requested to approve the following change orders. Change order number 12, alternate number 1, to remove and replace the exit door from the children's room to the staircase / administrative area at a cost of $10,074.92. Change order number 3 is for electrical changes at a cost of $8,020.41. Change order number 14 to install 3/4-inch fire-rated plywood in the ceiling at a cost of $818.61. Change order number 15 is to modify the hollow metal door frames for doors number 4 and 7 at a cost of $1,212.75. And finally, board authorization is requested to approve the proposal submitted by H2M for a fee adjustment in the amount of $24,830.67. In the original contract, the fee was based on 8% of the cost of the build out, and the cost of the project increased substantially. This is the adjustment for that. Item number 14. Board authorization is requested to transfer funds as follows: $37,968.34 to Capital Office Construction Administration and Finance, $27,387.60 from Village Hall Detective Room, and $10,580.74 from DPW Security Infrastructure. So these are unused funds in other capital projects that we're transferring, so we can to provide for the change orders that follow. Change order number 3 in the amount of $9,935 for additional work to install a drop ceiling in the small first floor lobby area by the restrooms. Change order number 4 in the amount of $8,500 for reconfiguration and installation of the ceiling grid to accommodate the HVAC ductwork. So the grid that was there had to be adjusted for the ductwork, so it has to come back in and lower it and readjust it. Change order number 5, the amount of $36,400 for the reconfiguration of the electrical work needed to meet the New York State electrical code. All of the lights in the ceiling are out of code now, so let's update them. Item number 15 is renewal of professional service contract for wire to water electric, and the rates are on file with the village clerk. Item number 16 is to renew the contract with Cork Electric for the period from 2/1/23 to 1/31/24. The previous one for wire to water expires in 12/31/23. And item number 17 is the award of the disposal of mixed broken asphalt to Rayson Materials. This was competitively bid and it'll only be used as needed. And it's we had a very good cost on this. So I want to thank purchasing for working with us on that. That is everything I have for this evening. If there are any questions, be happy to take them.
Thank you. Let's move on to agenda items. Are there any citizen comments on agenda items? None? Any on Zoom? Agenda items?
And if not, can we have a motion to add it to the agenda?
It's not on the agenda.
Well, do you mind if I say a few things about it? Anybody?
Not an agenda item.
I don't mind. I don't mind if you say a
Thank
few
you.
things.
I'm okay with it too.
My name is Matt Flanagan.
For all comments now, do we want to switch the order if people are here to speak on this issue?
That's
Why don't we
not
do the
normally
trustee
our
decision?
protocol.
Why don't we do the agenda first, unless there's an objection of the board and you want to take comments on anything right now?
No, the question from the resident was to make a comment on what the Board of Trustees already discussed at the inception of the meeting. And I personally have no objection to that. If people want to comment on what was already discussed at the beginning of the meeting.
I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
Well, does everyone agree? Or because then it's going to be citizens' comments on that.
Is that all right, Tom? There.
Okay.
Okay.
My name is Matt Flanagan. As many of you know, I reside at 64 Harvard Street. I would like to address the January 23 letter sent by Cosmo Veneziali to the employer of my wife, trustee Mary Carter Flanagan. Back in December of last year, Cosmo Veneziali met with representatives of the property owners associations to try to get their support for him to run for mayor back in December. To say this was not on your radar was not true at all. And I know this because one of my law partners happens to be part of the EPOA. Now, at that meeting, you were telling these people that my wife could not run because of her job. That was not true then, and it's not true now.
I never said that, sir.
You absolutely did. You absolutely did.
I don't
And
know
we'll
what
get
you're talking
witnesses
about.
in here to testify to that. A month after misrepresenting to the POAs that trustee Carter Flanagan could not run for mayor, Veneziale proceeded without conferring with any other trustees to send the letter that was referred to earlier on official village letterhead to try to get Mary's employer to say that she cannot run for mayor. And in this letter, in doing so, Veneziale attacked Mary's character and her integrity. He attacked the character and integrity of a woman who has done nothing more than serve the village in which she grew up, in which her father grew up, and in which she raised her 3 children, including our son Matt, who is now serving his nation in the United States Navy. And Veneziale had the nerve to use village letterhead and village resources to make this attack. As pointed out, Mary has sat 3 feet away from you for 2 years. If you truly had any concerns about her ability to serve the village or her ability to serve as a trustee, you could have turned to her and asked her. You never did that, not even once. To those trustees who have strongly condemned the actions of Veneziale, that includes Trustee Chester, Trustee Deegan, who's not here, Trustee Kelly, and Trustee Marciano, I applaud you and I thank you. You are men of character, integrity, and conviction. You represent the very best of our village, and we are all very fortunate to have you as trustees. As has been said, Mr. Veneziale, you were not looking out for the village's interests in acting as you did. You were looking out for your own personal interests. You violated the oath that I administered to you on that very day as 2 years ago. You violated, you made a mockery of it. You brought disgrace to yourself, to your family, the position of mayor, and importantly to all the villages, all the residents of our village, to our village. You should resign immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Stephen Gray, 44 Cambridge Avenue, Garden City, New York. I second Mr. Flanagan's statements. I have written a letter which will appear in the Garden City News tomorrow, and it is in support of this trustee running in a race to become the next mayor. I further endorse and repeat every syllable of that letter tonight. Everything that I have heard tonight further enhances her opinion as a woman of character and trust. I saw a movie, heard a movie once where an expression was said, more or less, I believe in that coincidences can occur, but I've just never seen one. And this is a case clearly where it is not a coincidence that a letter was written to ruin somebody's chances to become our next mayor. Thank you.
Can I talk about the casino?
About the what?
The casino?
Oh, this was only for the letter. If you have a comment on the letter.
Okay, so, all right.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Kiley. I reside at 95 Huntington Road in Garden City. Good evening, everyone. I decided it was very important for me to attend this evening's meeting after first hearing about and then having the opportunity to read the letter Mayor Veneziale wrote to Mary Flanagan's employer. The more I learned about the steps our mayor took and the steps he either neglected to take or possibly intentionally decided not to take in sending this letter is quite concerning, even disturbing to me. To me, and I suspect to many of you gathered here tonight, it raises concerns about the personal character of our mayor. As we all know, this mayor's letter was written on village stationery that listed the names of each of the members of the village of the Board of Trustees. Using this letterhead infers that the mayor had consulted with all of the Board of Trustees about writing such a letter, and that they were each given the opportunity to review and approve the letter's content. None of the 4 trustees I have had the opportunity to speak with had any prior knowledge that such a letter was sent. What was our mayor's motivation in sending such a letter? I'm sure if we were to compile a list of the mayor's possible motivations, all of them would be self-serving. If the mayor had any altruistic intentions, if the mayor had any altruistic intentions, thinking his actions in some way were for the benefit of the village, why would he have decided to secretly send the letter? Why didn't our mayor just ask Mary if she had discussed with her employer whether running for the mayor's office was an issue? I think we all know there is no good answer to this question. To me, this leads to a serious problem. We now all realize we have a mayor who is more concerned with pursuing his own interests than pursuing the interests of the district, of the village, of the residents of Garden City. If I was in the mayor's current position, I hope that I would have the common decency to do the right thing and step down as mayor and resign from the board. I have known Mary and Mary's husband, Matt, for 20 years. It would be very hard for me to find 2 better people. We, the residents of Garden City, are very fortunate to have Mary serving as a village trustee. Mary is compassionate, diligent, loyal, trustworthy, and ethical. I look forward to supporting Mary in her campaign for election as the next mayor of Garden City.
Any more comments?
Good evening. My name is Colleen Foley. I live at 54 Kilburn Road, Garden City, New York. I've served this village in the capacity of trustee for 2 different agencies for over 16 years. Cosmo, you have almost rendered me speechless. Almost. Imagine my amazement to see my name on a letter that was sent representing this village. I also reached out to John Delaney, former trustee, and imagine his amazement. And he's given me his authorization to speak for both of us this evening. That letter took letterhead that was incorrect, so sloppy job. Wrote down items that could have been hashed out between all of you. Sent off to another agency, making us look like fools. And using it for personal launching of your political career. I am amazed. I've known you for 20 years. This is a very, very sad day. I have no political motivation here. I'm not running for any office, thank God. I came to this board as an opponent of Mary. I don't know her for 20 years, but working side by side with her over the year that I spent with her, we became allies and colleagues, which is how it should be for all of you. Imagine my amazement to see that the relationship between the mayor and his board has deteriorated to such a point that such a ploy would be launched and embarrassing us on a state level. Imagine me hearing tonight that village council couching his words saying, well, I didn't write the letter, but somebody else could. That's a big red flag. And sir, you should be terminated. I am appalled at the behavior, appalled. I expect more of you. I expect more of you leading this community, and you have not given it to me, and you have failed. It's with a sad heart that I think you should step aside.
Leo Stimler, Huntington Road. I'm very disappointed, Mr. Mayor, in what happened. I didn't know about any of this. And coming to this meeting tonight, I'm just very disappointed to hear what Trustee Kelly and others have said, Mr. Flanagan said. So I don't understand, after observing you for 2 years, why you wouldn't go to Ms. Flanagan ahead of time and tell her your concerns. I'm very disappointed.
Further comments? Anybody on Zoom?
Does anybody, Mr. Oros, on the letter?
Yes, about the only comment I'd like to make at this time is that we should have a vote, the village should have a vote of no confidence on the mayor and have him removed. Thank you.
Oh,
Any other comments?
Effie Campbell, 122 Oxford Boulevard. Mayor, I was very disappointed when I read the letter you sent to Trustee Flanagan's employer. You went after her livelihood in your efforts to eliminate someone that you see as a threat. Mary Carter Flanagan, a very hardworking and ethical woman who I've gotten to know very well in the past 2 years, was instrumental in electing you as mayor. As a member of FABGC and a resident of this community, I am embarrassed by your behavior. I believe that you have not shown Mary the respect that she is due, as someone who was elected to serve with you on this board. This conduct is unbecoming of the mayor of the village. Thank you.
Any other comments? Karen?
anybody else on Zoom?
Yeah, let's continue with tonight's radio.
I just have one comment. Yeah. So likewise, I was not aware of the letter that was sent or any participation in it, but, and I totally understand how upsetting it was for you, Mary. And I expressed this to Mary in a conversation. I'm hoping at some point we can move beyond some of this divisiveness that's going on and some of the politics that's occurring. There's too much politics all around at this time. And I'm hoping that we can get back together, working together as a community, as the Board of Trustees, to focus on issues of importance to our residents in the village. You know, I'm sorry that all this occurred. It's a terrible situation that we're in. I'm just hoping that we can somehow, you know, move ahead and get beyond it and get back to work. But again, I was upset for you that you got that letter.
Thank you, Tom. Any other comments? None? Let's move on. Let's continue with tonight's regular Board of Trustees meeting with the approval of the minutes of the previous Board of Trustees meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 12th, 2023 meeting?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, was that was that the special meeting?
No.
That's the 12th. Okay.
12th.
Okay.
Now do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 20th special board meeting?
With the amendment that I was present on the phone during the entire meeting. That's not noted in the minutes because I didn't participate verbally, but I just note that change. With that change, I move to approve the minutes.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Let's move on to the formal agenda which contains appointment of John Barone to the Superintendent of Public Works.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
Mr. Barone, you got a jacket on? Hey. My grandfather told me that the mark of a professional is what they do. Nobody is looking. And that is the epitome of Mr. Barone. With all the work that he does, on many occasions, I would come back to the building and he's here. When we had the construction, he supervised when he's here. Now, granted, he's got 4 kids, so he comes here because it's quiet. But with regard to the position of DPW, he is a consummate professional. He knows what needs to be done. He knows how to push, he knows how to pull, and get the most out of the people that work for him. So I strongly suggest, I will move for the approval of item number 1.
I'll second.
Yeah, I'll second that. I would just like to say a few words on Mr. Barone myself. You were extremely helpful on the Main Avenue project, advising us, advising Paul Rothenviller. We could always count on you to come through, and I think it's coming along very, very well. And I think you're going to be an excellent head of the DPW. You have the temperament and the leadership skills to do it.
So do we have a second motion?
I guess I'll second it, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Barone, thanks very much. Let's move on to the non-agenda items. Or we go to calendar, we approve the consent calendar now? Okay.
Right. First, we're going to vote and then, vote on the consent calendar. Minus those 2
Minus
items.
the 2 items. Do you have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. All right, so I'm going to recuse myself. Number 2.
First, I have to put on the record. Trustee Flanagan.
Yes, you left the room.
I'll move for items number 2 and 5.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Approved. We're finished with the consent calendar. We move on to the non-agenda items. Opening the floor to any citizen comments on non-agenda items only.
John Chiara, Brompton Road, the Estates. At this point, I feel like I've met several of you trustees before. Just a little bit about myself. I grew up in Garden City. I moved back in 2017. Trustee O'Brien was my football coach. Sorry to give away your age, but
And he was a good
I'm in my
player.
40s.
And he was a good player.
I think I owe you one on that. But I just want to say something that's important to me. I mean, I just want, I'm not going to go into my background, but I do municipal law. I was the acting county attorney. I was the deputy county executive. I was a federal state prosecutor. I'm a veteran. I'm in the reserves. I love this community. And what I can say is that, and I've said this now at several meetings. I was there earlier this week. I'm sure you heard me speak with the supervisor Clavin. Is that this project is coming fast, and I spent a lot of my time with younger families and people that have kids in the schools like I do. I have a 2, 4, and a 6-year-old. And I'll tell you, we're not engaged in it yet, but I know what's going on, and I know that this project is moving really fast. And Sands Casino has spent millions of dollars on it, and they've lined up a lot of what normal would be, opposition to this casino. Most elected officials at this point are not taking a position, which can be scary because they want to wait and see. And my problem with that is that I know this is going to be a casino, and I'm opposed to it. And I've spoken to civic leaders in Carl Place. I've spoken to civic leaders in Uniondale. I've spoken to a lot of the people in our own community. And, I am imploring, I want to take something that Coach O'Brien said earlier. I didn't know what I was walking into today. I'll tell you that. But I will say is let me tell you something that I think is important to this community and is going to make this community last another 200 years, is that we cannot let this casino happen. And if we let it happen, it's going to change Garden City in a way that we cannot anticipate. And if this board doesn't stand up and unite on that issue, I'm afraid it's going to happen, because I know Garden City has been a force for stopping bad developments in the past. And I really think that, from what I know, most of the communities are divided out there, whether it's Uniondale or Westbury or Carl Place, or what's going on in the local governments. But if the Sands Casino gets a change of ownership, which is going to happen probably in April, maybe March of this year by the Nassau County Legislature, that's going to begin the project, and it's going to be hard to stop it. So that's only 2 months away. And I just, I started a civic association, which is say no to the casino. And I signed a petition. We have almost 500 signatures. Not to give myself a shout out, www.nocasinonassau.org if you want to sign or help. But I really think we need to have a meeting. This important body needs to discuss this publicly and take a position soon on this, a formal position. Because if you don't do it, I think this is going to happen. And, I know, I moved the village with my parents in 1980. And I've spent most of my life here, except being in the city and being in, other places throughout the world. But this is where I want to raise my kids, and I want to grow old. And I'm not sure I'm going to do that if this casino is going to come. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
To respond to your question, Ariel Ronenberger, who, did I pronounce your name right? Yes. That's miraculous. Has presented the board with a very good roadmap of what are the steps and roles that the village and others can take. There are many different steps. I hate to use the railroad example, but of derailing the process, and agreed that yes, this village together with the other villages need to band together. The commentary by Supervisor Clavin at his presentation was to make sure that the county executive Blakeman is fully aware of the position of this village as well as the other villages. And it's my understanding that a letter went to him and he has accepted invitation to come to the village to give their presentation. At that point in time, we all must be united in opposing that activity, which will change the core of our village. I applaud you for your action, and I likewise stand with you in a resolve to make certain that it does not happen. Thank you.
Good evening, Frank McDonough, 141 Hampton Road. Let me address the outstanding issues. First, as to the last comment by the prior speaker, I've been involved in the issue of the Sands Casino for some time. It is something that will be a detriment to this village. To the credit of this entire board, this board has had the courage over the last 2 years to address several of the most important topics and issues in our village, whether it is the volunteer issue, whether it is the firehouse issue, or whether it's the St. Paul's issue. There are 3 critical issues that are confronting the village over the next 2 years. They are, in particular order, the Sands Casino. Number 2, the zoning issues of our village, in particular in light of the governor's action in terms of having a statewide zoning overboard. The issues concerning the cathedral and what it intends to do with its property, and of course, the St. Paul's Committee, in which we've all been involved as partners. As a lifelong visitor, resident of this village, I'm saddened by this evening. I've seen this board take what it seems to be more of a political stance. And in the light of these 3 or 4 important issues, I hope we find a common ground. We need that common ground if we're going to survive as a village, because these are the issues that are coming down the pipe. And it is not a time for politics. It is a time for coming together. And I'm suggesting to you that the next step in this, based on my extensive discussions and involvement in the process of the casino, that we meet this Saturday at 10 o'clock at Hofstra University. Susan Posner, the president of Hofstra, has arranged an information session. Many of the people who will be involved in the casino will be there. It is a fact-finding issue. It is something in which we can find out what is the process, and I would disagree with my prior speaker. I believe the process of this coming to the legislature is coming in the end of February. Even worse. It is worse, because there is not an individual, nor their consultants, nor their prior legislatures who have not been tapped by the Sands and their group. It will take a united effort, not just the village of Garden City, but all of the villages in this area. But having said that, with that type of united force, this will be stopped. I can't get into the polling, et cetera, that's going on, but I can tell you that a united effort, not the kind of divisiveness I've unfortunately seen here tonight, but the kind of effort that I know we can do together as a village, will make a significant difference with Blakeman and everyone else. The song that you will hear is that this is a done deal. It is not. There is a long way to come, just as there is a long way back from tonight's divisiveness. I would suggest that we begin on Saturday, 10 o'clock, more building on the Hofstra campus, 10 to 11, where we can unite again as a village, where we can think about what is in front of us and our children. The Sands will not be that solution. Having worked on the casino up in Rhode Island and watched that process, having worked on the casino out in Las Vegas and watched that process, I'm happy to provide some insights that might be acceptable and helpful in that process. But we must begin together. And let me echo Tom's comments. This is not the village of Garden City. We've seen this in prior administrations. We don't need politics in this room. We need a united front, because those 4 issues, casino, Hochul's zoning request, the issue of what happens around the cathedral, and what happens at St. Paul's, will define us and define each of you. As a long-term supporter of each of you, and the relief that came in 2 years ago when FABGC brought in talented people, attorneys, architects, people of business. Politics is not for this room, it's for outside. We have 7 weeks to have this wrestling match. Let's save the wrestling match for outside this room. Let's keep this room a place of decorum and working on the people's business. The business tonight, first and foremost, is the Sands, and secondly is our governor. We are all united in that. Let's start united, 10 o'clock, Saturday at Hofstra, and let's go back on the road that Tom has asked us to come back on. Thank you very much.
Frank, quick question. I know it's at Hofstra, but do we know what building it's at? The Moore? Okay. Okay.
10 to 11, and
Parking's tough over there, so if people are going.
but for those of us who are familiar with the sports area, if you get there early, you're fine. Let me be blunt. If there is a sufficient and coordinated and critical mass of the local villages, this will be stopped. The vote that's coming up is a transfer of a lease. Even if that lease is approved and the transfer occurs, that is not going to put this project on a glide path. The various elected officials are lined up and are supporting it. But like most elected officials, they will listen to their constituents. It is up to us to form that group and to get them out in front. Don Clavin has tried and will do a good job, but we're now moving to a different level of participation. This is not just the village, it is the region. And I would suggest that we all continue to call our groups, our affinity groups, people here tonight. This is our chance. If we miss this chance, we will not have the critical mass necessary to address Blakeman and those folks. They'll all come out and tell you that they love it or love you and then vote differently. We need to show them the voting population will vote no for them if they vote yes for the Sands. Thank you.
Thank you.
10 o'clock, Hofstra Moore Lecture Hall.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hi, Michelle Harrington, 124 Whitehall. We did get in touch with Bruce Blakeman after the meeting on earlier this week, and he has agreed to come to the joint meeting of the POAs on Wednesday, February 8th. So we just got that confirmation late yesterday. It is going to be in the Garden City News tomorrow. He's going to be, we were able to get Stewart Avenue Auditorium, the Stewart Avenue School Auditorium for 7:30. Wednesday, February 8th, Bruce Blakeman will be there. And he's going to listen to the residents. So if you could all come, that would be great.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Good work.
Any other comments? Non-agenda items. Anybody on Zoom? Or, excuse me.
It's Rich Correo, Meadbrook Road Estates. Just to take a minor point of contention with Mr. McDonough, I have to say I think tonight actually stands as a point of unity. I don't know if I saw divisiveness as much as I saw an element of unity tonight. And although we are grappling with something that's very sad and disappointing, I can't help but feel a strange element of pride in what happened here tonight. So thank you.
Thank you.
Leo Stimler, 67 Huntington Road. I'm opposed to the casino project by the Sands Hotel. And I wanted just to quote the Anti-Media Group's Nassau Illustrated, dated January 25th, which says that Bruce Blakeman, our Nassau County executive, has endorsed the project, and he was quoted as saying it will bring significantly more revenue. And that's a very disappointing quote. At what cost? To traffic, to pollution. And I also wanted to mention that in the New York Times of January 19th, it said that this deal for Nassau County, for the Sands Casino, has to be approved by the Nassau County Legislature because the land is publicly owned. So I'm hoping that all of you will contact Laura Schaefer, and when you speak with her and you meet with her, I hope you'll mention that you're opposed to it. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know Kathleen Oro, 4 Maryland Avenue. I know we've discussed, or I've heard many important things discussed tonight, but I'm back to my same old problem, Main Avenue. And it's not the railroad this time. It's, I guess, our Public Works. But I have 6 children, so I'm 2 up on you, so I don't leave the house all the time. I don't know what the wisdom was in, okay, imagine Nassau Boulevard, Houston, Wellington. You're coming from Jericho Turnpike. So you're going to Wellington, and thank God those big orange thingies are there. Because once that curb was put up, if someone were not paying attention, they would have gone right through this addition to the property. Now, I guess the property was put there by the village to block the lighting from the railroad. But I should not make an assumption because we know what that does to you and I. I drive a Toyota Camry. I mean, it's not a big SUV. And when I come up to that curb to make my U-turn at Wellington to go back to pull into my driveway, which is at the corner of Nassau and Maryland, I feel so sorry for that white brick house that has now posted, please stay off the grass. It's a tight turn. And as I say, last Sunday, there was a young couple with a baby in a stroller, and I was I did make the U-turn to go back heading towards Nassau Boulevard, and they sort of stopped, and I stopped because I knew the thought that was going through their minds. Oh my God, she could hop the curb on Wellington and Main and come crashing to us and the white brick house. Also, I have another question. I don't know if anybody can answer. Again, at Wellington, on the railroad property, that long gray building that seems to have many doors. Does anybody know what purpose that serves? Bruce? Anybody?
I believe it's a generator, Mrs. Hobbs,
That's a big generator.
or it's a boiler. The boiler, it's a boiler to heat the
Platform.
Right.
platform during the winter. It's not a generator.
I
it's a
didn't
boiler.
make any notice to see if the Long Island, the MDA were shoveling or if that heating unit was working.
No,
I was
it's-
just curious, but I didn't bother. All right, but again, I've been, as the board knows, I've been against this whole project on repaving the road and doing all of this stuff. And it appears to me that the road will be more narrow now that that extension of the property comes out from, I know I'm not making myself very clear. But if any of you, Bruce, I brought this up to you a couple of weeks ago. You were even unaware of the fact of this curb and the moving out. But just to say, the people who, if you start at Tannis Pond Road, they have a wall to camouflage the noise, supposedly. And they have these lovely large shrubs that have been planted. And then as you progress down to where, say, Wellington is, we don't have a wall. We have these short little, well, they're this high off the ground, because I've deliberately walked up to look at them. We have wall panels that you still can look through, and the purpose is not to deaden the noise. I've lived on that corner since May 29th, 1971. I was not born and raised in Garden City. I lived in another little community nearby. But I can see my area is going to the dogs. And they don't even walk up there anymore. They walk on the sidewalk in front of my house. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Kathy, I know that you've been against this project from the beginning, or at least what we're doing. I just don't believe obviously it's not as easy as it had been for you before, because you went through Houston Road and made your turn there. I don't really believe the Wellington Road U-turn is that tight. We've talked to a number of people, and most people seem to be pretty comfortable with it. In terms of, I'm trying to remember all the different things you said. In terms of between Wellington and Roxbury, it is a bit more narrow than it had been.
Right.
Some people like it because it'll cause people to slow down. We will be putting stop signs up, by the way, at some point. We hope to do that at various locations along that. The ugly building that you talk about, that's one of the reasons why that curve is out, because we will be planting.
To camouflage it?
Absolutely. We'll be planning to camouflage it. The small plants you're talking about is just another way of 3TC, to be blunt, giving us the middle finger. They were supposed to plant more than that, but we will be able to camouflage it in the spring when we have more of the landscaping done. So that should help it. I don't know what else to say about that.
Oh, and one other thing. I'm on a roll and I'm over 4 minutes. I know I am, but who's counting?
We don't hold it to 4 minutes. Plus you're special, Kathy.
Thanks, Tom. With the new parking, I've always had the little parking space across from my house, always. And those very mature trees, spruce, pine, there are a few maple trees, obviously are devoid, and there's a deciduous pine tree, so they don't have the needles now. But in resurfacing that new parking area, they have cut all the lower branches from those trees. And if I know anything about those trees, I don't think they will grow lower branches again. Paul, am I right? Right. So now I have a clear view into all the cars that park there, which I never had before. And I have a clear view of more of the lights on the railroad station. So, again.
We'll address that, Kathy. We've heard that.
But you put up new little, yeah, if I should live so long.
No, we will. Okay.
Quick, John Baroni, you're still here, right? Yeah. John, can you work with the Commissioner Jackson and just look into that for Kathy Oro? Just the safety of that road and the turn. All right, thank you. I'm sorry? Yeah, I'm more concerned about being able to make a safe turn as opposed as, you know, how far, you know, we have to see and make sure that it's not jetted out too far, because we could always move it if we need to. But if you could take a look at it with Commissioner Jackson, yeah.
Yeah, Tom, do the U-turn
curve.
yourself. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Do it yourself. Try it. You know.
I was down there, my mom's house got torn down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been a neighbor of Kathy since 7th grade.
Ooh, okay.
I love Kathy.
She didn't yell at you at all? No?
What's that?
She didn't
She
yell
still
at you?
likes me.
Okay, good.
Any other calls? Anybody on Zoom? Oh,
Yes, I have something. This is George Salem. Can you hear me?
yes.
Yes.
Yes. I was at the senior center today to play cards. I was told by one of the employees of the recreation department that no work has been done lately on the repairs because they've run out of money. So I was wondering if Mr. Blake could clarify what's going on with the cost and timing of repairs and are funds available to do it.
That statement is patently false.
Good.
Funds are available. Work is going on. The HVA system is being worked on a daily basis. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we do have the estimate from the restoration company as to what it will take to put the building back together. We also have the estimate from the insurance company on what they're willing to pay. We have a meeting on Monday with the floor contractor, and I'm confident that Mr. Swazi and I will get the insurance and the restoration companies together. Work will go forward. Work is proceeding. And that's all I can tell you, George.
Do you have a timing on completion?
Much too early to speculate on that, George. It is a very extensive project. We're hopeful of doing it expeditiously, but I do not have a time frame yet.
Okay, thank you.
Judy Courtney, 3 Tremont Street. Just a question on the work that Kathy was talking about over by Maryland and everything. Have we gotten any follow-up from the railroad about reimbursement for that work?
Ralph? Ralph, yeah.
So as far as the road goes, there was, I'm sorry, you mean the Maryland Avenue project, the landscaping piece was in question from the railroad. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking, I believe what the board approved was the enhancements, I'll call it, to the roadway and the curb that Kathy was referring to, and that you approved funds for that with the assumption that the railroad would reimburse you, I guess, through the community fund.
So I'll try to unpack this without getting too long, but the road work is on us. We requested ourselves to redesign the road to facilitate by repositioning the islands and closing Houston Road to create a landscaping bed. As Trustee Chester said, we're also going to bump out the north curb from the curb that they reestablished so that we have new planting area in front of things like the boiler and the platform. So that is on us. There was some landscaping that the railroad provided. I think I'll call it 3 tranches. There might be 4th, I forget now. What they were supposed to replace because they took it down originally 4 years ago.
Yep.
Then the enhanced, and then this they had another word for the enhanced, I'll call it. So those are the only dollars outstanding. There may be some credits, and Mr. Baroni is trying to work with Mr. Pascoe on this. There may be some credits on some of the road bed. We might get credits on for some of the asphalt that was damaged during their construction. And I believe they've done a significant amount of the concrete work, the sidewalk work on the eastern half from Nassau Boulevard down. So those costs will come off of the estimate we provided. We don't have final numbers right now, but there's not reimbursement for the road in general.
So,
well, I think to answer, we are going to ask for reimbursement for the project as a whole.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, we can't do that until the project is done and we've shown what we've spent to do it. But we are going to ask for reimbursement of the Community Benefit Fund, of which there's 1.6 million left. Okay. As far as the roads are concerned, now DPW head John Baroni has given them a list of roads that we feel were damaged during the course of this project, and they were. So we've given that to them quite a while ago. So we will continue to push to get decisions on that to get reimbursement for that. But we are also asking, we are also going to ask for the reimbursement under the Community Benefit Fund for the landscaping and the Main Avenue project.
My apologies. I neglected to point out the Community Benefit Fund in the explanation. And also what trustees just said, Mr. Baroni had put together a list, a walkthrough of all the roads that were impacted as part of this project and measured against the pre-construction designation given to us by an outside engineering firm. And based on that, we would give the roads numbers and pluses and minuses. And we think 3TC should be funding us for those repairs. We're giving us credit toward those repairs. And that we've given them that 4 or 5 months ago now. We haven't been able to get a dialogue on it.
Even longer, yeah.
And I've requested both of Mr. Stefano from Long Island Railroad MTA and Mr. Pascoe from 3TC that they sit with us and go through that punch list item.
So just to make sure I understand, so I don't remember when, it was several months ago, right? Where you guys, the board approved late at a board meeting, there was an approval made for the, I'll call it reconfiguration, I guess, of the roads and the parking around the Maryland Avenue station, correct?
Yeah.
And you approved to use village funds for that
Right.
with the hope that this would be reimbursed through the community fund, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't just say the hope. I mean, this is a legitimate project that should be reimbursed by the community benefit
Right,
fund.
understood. So I guess my understanding was that we had already requested that. Now you're saying we can't request that until it's done?
No, we've
Oh,
requested.
you have, okay.
But we have to show that we've, used the funds to do the project.
Right. So when do they make a decision on whether or not those funds will be approved and given to us?
Well, once we give them, the documentation that this was spent to do this project, we then expect to get reimbursement, and we don't expect to wait too long for that, but I can't give you a time period.
Yeah, the application's in, but I don't think we've received an actual
Right.
full response yet.
Okay. And how much was that about?
The CBF, the Community Benefit Fund,
Is
had
one,
1.636, 1,636,000.
Well, that's how much is in the fund, right?
That's what's in
How
the
much
fund.
was this particular project? How much did we request due to this project? I
We've
guess is what I'm
requested the
asking.
entire amount, and
This one, so the whole community investment fund will be used for this, if we get it,
if we
would
get it,
be applied to this one project.
right.
well, I think it was about 1.3 for the actual road part of the
Yeah.
project. Okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other comments? Karen, anybody on Zoom?
No, anybody on Zoom? Have a comment?
No one?
Oh.
Okay.
Mr. Oros?
I just have one question.
Go ahead, Mr. Oros.
I'd like to ask a question. On or about January 12th, about 40 emails were sent out to members of the St. Paul subcommittees, asking you to participate in a meeting with Westerman, who is the estimator for the project, given a choice between January 20th or the 24th, the morning of either day, asking which one the members would be in favor of. Well, as it turns out, January 20th came and went, and most of us, I'd say almost all of us, never got a second email saying when the meeting was taking place. The only time I was able to know any about the meeting was to view the meeting on YouTube. What happened? Who was responsible for letting people know that the meeting was going to take place and give them the option to come or not? Anyone?
Good evening, Mr. Oros. This is Giuseppe Giovanello. I did start that initial email with regard to St. Paul's and having the estimator here to present his findings. There was a follow-up email because the majority of the people that wanted to attend that meeting was for the 20th. So they did send a follow-up email with regards to that meeting being on the 20th. And I believe Karen Altman put that on the website. Was that listed on the website for the 20th meeting? I think that was also on the website, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, how are the
We can-
people supposed to
check
know?
that.
I mean, I saw the view of on YouTube, and there was a minimum amount of trustees there, 2 representatives from Westerman, and very few residents there or representatives from any of the subcommittees. And when I spoke to a lot of members of the subcommittees, they never got an answer. I think we were systematically left out so that the meeting could go forward in the direction that some people on the board wanted to go, and not having anybody make any waves.
That's not true. I apologize if it's my misbehalf, but that email did go out with the meeting being on the 20th.
I'd love to have anybody get in touch with anybody here and to let us know who ever got that email. Because if I would have gotten it, I would have made sure that everyone on at least my committee would have also gotten it. And I don't know of anyone who's gotten it.
Okay, I would like to follow. I can actually request Mr. Westerman to come back and we can have a second meeting because he is preparing another draft to hopefully finalize his estimate by the end of the month. So all due respect, we can have another meeting and we can put that out again.
There's another thing I'd like to ask. In the paper, it registered that board members were there, the mayor was there, Westerman was there, and the committee was there. I've never known who is the committee. Who makes up the committee? I thought I was on the committee. Apparently, I'm not. I would like to know who makes it up because I've seen the committee's name on the bottom of letters appearing in the Garden City News, and it was signed the committee. Who is the committee?
I
You have any
received the
names?
emails that were the people on the committee, and that's where the emails went, Mr. Oros.
No, who is on
There's
the
a lot of
committee?
members on the committee, actually. I think there's
I'm on
probably
a committee.
20 men. Right, okay.
I didn't sign my name to any of these letters. Who was the committee?
I don't have everybody listed right now in that committee, so
Wonderful.
I can't answer that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one thing I was going to bring up. Commissioner Jackson, we had that incident at the middle school. I wanted to ask you if you could give an overview of what happened and the actions that you and the fire department and the recreation department took.
Sure, sir. The other day, the school received a call, a mail call stating that there was bombs in the building. We were notified right away. We responded in 1 minute. We notified the fire department right away, Nassau County Bomb Squad, Emergency Services. We also, we have plans that we put in place already with the schools where they will go. And then Mr. Blake was of tremendous help and his staff to help us with that. Chief Perella showed up at the scene to fight several, I think it was 12 firefighters responded as a standby at fire headquarters because it was in close distance. We worked with school staff per our training that we've done with them, and their staff was amazing. And our officers and the staff safely evacuated the children. The children were awesome. We had some new teachers there, and his children were very, very good from their training. We were very impressed with them. Also, then it's a large building, a lot of nooks and crannies. We split up. We had several firefighters, several officers and Chief Perella, and we paired ourselves with people who knew the building, and we went through every nook and cranny, and we were able to determine that it was a false call. It's probably what we call a swatting call. A lot of people probably hear about it. Somebody steals a phone number and then makes a phone call, and it's happened in the village a couple of times and also in the area. There's different types of swatting calls, but I was at the scene the whole time. I was very impressed with the response of my officers and my supervisors, as well as the fire department, Mr. Blake and his staff, and the Nassau County officers who assisted us. It was a fine job. I can't get into all the particulars. We are working on trying to determine the origin of the call. But again, that's the meat of it. And again, everybody involved worked very well. But we're never satisfied. We went over. We had a debriefing with my personnel, and then the next day we had a debriefing with the school district, all the staff, and all the principals were involved, which was good because what we like to do is situational awareness. We like to put one incident, then move it to another incident, and what will we do? How will we match it? Or what will we do different? So that was the next morning. We spent most of the morning doing that, and again, it's a good partnership we have with the schools, and we'll continue to train and work on it. And everybody involved I was very thankful for all their actions.
And for those that don't know, they evacuated the students and teachers over at St. Paul's. And I just want to publicly thank you, Commissioner, the officers, the detectives, Paul Blake, his staff at the Recreation, the Fire Department, Chief, and also the Nassau County Bomb Squad and their dogs for their work that they did. It was a job well done, and your training certainly has paid off. So thank you.
Yeah, as I said in the past, we train with the county and also the other villages. We do different scenarios with our training, so we learn how to train with people we don't work with in other scenarios. So it was great. Again, the children were great. I mean, I can't say enough. And on the way back, it was like business as usual.
Wow.
So I will say, Paul saw the children at firsthand. We went over some things we could do better, which you can always do better. But on a whole, I think with the scenario, I think everything went well. And again, kudos to the staff and everybody involved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other people on Zoom? Have you seen none? Any more in the audience? Make a motion to close the meeting?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is closed.